But three Swamis. His Holiness Indradyumna Swami. His Holiness Radhanath Swami. His Holiness Jayapataka Swami. Now ask you all to please stand up. I guarantee we won't let anybody else in. Stand rooted to the spot, but if you stand up, we will make a way for them to all come to the stage.
Dear Vaishnavas, thank you very much for coming here tonight in the auspicious presence of some of our leading preachers of ISKCON, in the presence of those dear souls who give us great nourishment as we walk along the path given to us by the Acharyas. They say that in Britain, they say that sometimes you are waiting for a bus and then three come along all at the same time. So, tonight, we are very, very fortunate to have not one. Some of you will have to go next door. That's it. Sorry to disappoint you. We're very, very fortunate to be in the presence of not one, not two, but three of Srila Prabhupada's great preaching warriors. What is a preacher? A preacher is someone in whose company we feel uplifted, someone in whose company we feel that all the doubts have gone, and we feel reassurance, and someone in whose company we feel inspired to serve Krishna. I feel that it is by some of their preaching that you are here tonight. Am I right? I feel that it is by some of their heartfelt concern for you as disciples that you have come here to see them tonight. Am I right? So when we were asked, what shall we speak about? We said, Maharajas, if you would kindly speak about the theme that we have for this year, which is the year of the congregation. They're all three of them experts in talking about how to care for the devotees. They're all expert in talking about how to push forward Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. And they're all very expert in telling us how to remember Krishna when we constantly forget him. So all three things we're going to be graced with tonight. So I'd like first of all to invite His Holiness Indradyumna Swami, who's just been touring all over America for the past 2 months in preparation for touring all over Poland, to kindly lead us in the chanting of Jai Radha. After which I'm going to invite His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj to speak on the theme of why it's important for your house to be a temple of Krishna. Why it's important for you to let devotees in the front door first. And once having done so, invite them back regularly so that your house becomes a regular place of pilgrimage. And then I'll invite His Holiness Indradyumna Swami Maharaj to talk about how Krishna consciousness and preaching Krishna consciousness can be fun, fun, fun. He's going to put the fun back in fundamentalism for us. And then finally, His Holiness Radhanath Swami will address us on the subject that is very, very dear to his heart, caring for the devotees and caring for the preachers. So can we first put our hands together? Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. I'd like to ask Prabhuji to kindly garland some other garlands.
Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunya Vidhani Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Jai Girivara Jaya Girivara Gopi Janavallabha Jai Girivara Jaya Girivara Yasaranandana Jai Rajajanarandana Yasaranandana Jaya Vajajanarandana Bhunajira Bhanachari Jayo Kunja Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamuna Jira Nachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Kunja Vihari Muna Jira Bhanachari Jai Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tira Bhanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radhanatha Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radhanatha Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Yasodanandana Jai Raju Janarandana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Rajanarandana Jai Yasodanandana Jaya Raja Janarandana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Rajanarandana Munajira Bhanachari Jaya Gunda Vrindavan Jaya Gunda Vrindavan Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Gunda Vihari Jaya Gunda Vihari Munajira Vanachari Jai Kunja Vihari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Go, 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 Hare Go. Jai Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa, Hari Bhattakacharya, Bhaktivedanta Saptashi Sriman, Slavanga ISKCON Founder Shraya Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa, Hari Bhattakacharya, Bhaktivedanta Saptashi Sriman, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Pramsakaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Om Bhakti, Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Gopa Gopinath, Shamkund, Radhakund, Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki, Navadvip Maya Purnama ki, Gambi Munamai ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Tasi Maharani ki, ISKCON Beauty Founder Chara, say the whole world to the Bombay. Golok Premdan, Harinam Shankirtan Belgaum ki, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki, Gopinath. Glory to the Assembly devotees, glory to the Assembly devotees, glory to the Assembly devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Varanga. Shishirara Kapurananda.
Boy, gosh, what's our time limit? 10 o'clock. Finish at 10. That's until 9. Omagyanatimirandasya Gyanandala Salakaya Chakshurunidam Yena Tasai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namah Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukhakaroti Vachalam Pangolang Gayate Giring Yat Kipatamaham Bhante Sri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. When Lord Chaitanya left Bengal after he took sannyas and went to Jagannath Puri, then after some time he called Nityananda Prabhu and said, I left Bengal. We had done so much preaching there, but now it's still unfinished. So, but I can't go back there now, since I've taken sannyas. So you should go back and finish the finished business and spread the Harinam Sankirtan movement there. So Nityananda Prabhu said, well, I need some men, I need some devotees. Lord Chaitanya said, you can take. So it wasn't exactly clear how many devotees it took, seems around 50 at least. Minikatan Ramdas, Abhiram Thakur, many of his great associates, and since we're limited on time, I just kind of condense it. But they went back in kirtan. Normally it would take a month of walking, but it took them 3 months because they were so ecstatic that along the way they would be doing kirtan and dancing, and somebody would be talking about the pastimes of Lord Krishna. They'd act it out, put the hand on the shoulder and said, it's Krishna and Balaram, and this thing happened and that, and then everyone would be so ecstatic remembering Krishna's pastimes, they would wander off the road and they'd go maybe 10 kilometers on one side, and then they'd look around and say, where are we? And ask how to get to the Bengal road, to Bengal. They said, well, that's 10 kilometers back. And they went back, but on the way, while they're chanting, they were so ecstatic that they would cross right over the road, and so instead of going straight back, they're going zigzag, back and forth. So it took about 3 months to get there. Very ecstatic Harinam journey. And then they, finally when they reached Panihati, then Nityananda walked in, and the kitchen where Raghava Pandit usually was, because that was his special seva. In fact, he's a reincarnation of the cook for Lord Krishna in Vrindavan. He and his sister Damayanti. So he was preparing for his Radha Madan Mohan deities. They looked, and there was Nityananda. Immediately paid his obeisances, and he said, so how many of you are there? He said, I have this many devotees. He said, okay, I'll prepare you prasadam. Please go take your, this is his only first thought, prasadam, that's his seva. So, you go take your bath in the Ganges and come back, and then we'll give you the prasad. So within 1 hour he cooked a huge feast for the 50 or 100 devotees that were there with him. And they came back and he served everyone prasadam. Lord, he took a little rest. Then afterwards came and they gathered together for kirtan. So this kirtan, Lord Nityananda was sitting down looking at all the kirtan singers. And while they were chanting, everyone was chanting and dancing. Whoever he glanced at would become overwhelmed with love of Krishna. just by his glance. Somebody would like to get the glance of Lord Nityananda. Nitai! 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 Gauranga! Gauranga! So like this, kirtan was going on very ecstatically. Then when it reached a certain level, the Nityananda Prabhu himself entered into the kirtan, dancing. So Lord Chaitanya said there's 5 places where he always is present. And one of the 5 is wherever Lord Nityananda is dancing. So when Nityananda Prabhu started dancing, although Lord Chaitanya was South India already by that time, and he immediately came there and was watching. Because Nityananda Prabhu's dancing is so ecstatic, you don't want to miss it. How many of you would like to see Lord Nityananda's dancing? Also, Panihati is one of the places he stays always, so he's there twice, double. But Radhanath Swami is reminding me. And so Nityananda could see Lord Chaitanya, and then he told the devotees that Lord Chaitanya is here dancing, as they're here watching. And everyone's looking around, but they couldn't see him. He said, "You can't see him, I can see him, you can't see him. He's right now technically in South India, but he's here watching. But he's wearing a South Indian flower garland. Just like here we have English flowers. They have South Indian flowers, different kinds. So there's a particular flower that didn't grow in Bengal. So he said you can smell him out. So everyone started. You got your mercy. So well, that's exactly what happened. Everyone who smelled the garland, they became so ecstatic. They are smelling Lord Chaitanya's garland's not different. They became so ecstatic that they fainted on the ground. They were rolling, pulling their hair. Well, catch him, quick. Nityananda! So there was like, as the flower aroma was going over the devotees, they were becoming, like it's like a special prema gas. They were getting intoxicated and overwhelmed with spiritual bliss. So like this then, so Nityananda was dancing, then he went back and changed his cloth, came out, then again his chadar dhoti. Then he asked Raghava Pandit, "Get me a kadamba garland. I'm a cowherd boy, I like kadamba flowers. So I want a kadamba garland." But Raghava Pandit, he said, "Well, we don't have any kadamba flowers, no trees here, and it's not the season for kadamba flowers. Don't give me all these excuses, just go in your garden and get me some kadamba garland." So he went back on his house and he had a garden with all different things he needed for his cooking, lemon trees and mango and different things. So one of the lemon trees started just popping kadamba flowers. Boop, 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 boop. So he took the kadamba flowers, made a garland, and came out and gave Lord Nityananda. Nitai Prabhu ki! So like this, so many things happened. And then that kirtan just started to go on day and night. They told me that in Birmingham they had last night a 24-hour, night before last, 24-hour kirtan. So it's also here in the UK. If they fall asleep, tell them. Worked very hard on that one. So, this kirtan we went on for 3 months. So that people would join the kirtan and they would become just so ecstatic they forgot everything. They just stayed in the kirtan for about 2-3 days, dancing and chanting day and night. Then after a while they remembered, oh, I have a wife, I have a family, I had to go home, I had to do some things. So they went, but they're like smiling and chanting, and so someone said, where have you been? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So like this, so there's this kirtan going on in the Panihati, Raghava Pandit's house. There the kirtan, Nityananda Prabhu. Oh, it's so wonderful. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the kirtan was going on for about day and night, 3 months. But then, in the end, the devotees, after 3 months of non-stop kirtan, they started to manifest certain mystical powers, like lifting up 25, 30 ton, how much a mango tree weighs, a huge mango, lifting it up and dancing with it. Some of them become lighter than a balloon and climb up, just to fly up to the top of the trees and jump from one tree to the next. Haribol! 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 But this tree pulling up, that was upsetting Raghava Pandit. He said, if you pull all the trees, how will I offer my deities any prasadam, any bhoga? He said, you better shift the kirtan, otherwise I have no house left, nothing left. So this kirtan went all over Bengal, when they just camp out somewhere for a while, and there the people would get totally overwhelmed with kirtan, and he'd leave one of his associates there to be the regional preacher, zonal preacher, whatever, and then go to the next place. And like this he would go going all over Bengal and just like flooding it wherever he went. And then leaving a kirtan, a leader like in a place called Kanakul Krishna Nagara, he left Abhiram Thakur. So sometime when you go on Gaur Mandal Bhumi Parikrama in Bengal, then you see the different places where the different acharyas and associates of Lord Chaitanya were left for preaching. Some were seen to be traveling and some were preaching. So like that was the way that Nityananda Prabhu started, and then after that we read just like we know that Abhiram Thakur is Sridham from Krishna Lila, is one of the cowherd boys. Many of these associates were cowherd boys who came down into the Chaitanya Lila. And that describes in some historical books that he would have meetings with his disciples and preachers and other associates, that how in his area, how is the propagation of Krishna consciousness growing. And they'd even have a map out. And they'd refer to the map and they'd ask, what about this village? And they'd say, well, we don't have any devotee there. I said, what? So we have to deliver that village also. So then they make a plan. Well, what about the next village? So there we have a Namahatta, and here we have many devotees, but this village none. So let's have a festival in the village where we have devotees, and like in India, if your neighboring village has a festival, everybody's going to go. You don't miss it. I don't know if it's like that in Poland. We were just in Bangladesh for 21 days on a Bangladesh safari, following in Radhanath Swami and Indradyumna Maharaj's footsteps. They had gone years ago on a pilgrimage, so we went to all the places they'd already visited. And we had a devotee from the Polish tour said that in Poland you had to go out and invite everyone to come to the festival. But in Bangladesh, you don't need any invitation, they just show up. Thousands of them, tens of thousands. One place, 50,000 people. One place they had 100 police just to take the devotees to the stage so they get through the people because they're all trying to touch their feet. So every place is a little different. Probably in the UK they don't touch your feet too much. So so that here, Sridham means Abhiram Thakur, he's meeting and they make this festival, they invite Lord Nityananda, they do have a big festival, drama, everything, and so all the people from the next village, they come there, they take their context. There's a system that we promoting in the Congregational Development Ministry called the Vamana approach. Vamana Dev. He took 3 steps, right? 1, 2, 3, and that 3rd step was on Bali's head. So we also have 3 steps. One is to make contact with devotees, with new people, with friends and interested people. Then to cultivate them, to invite them into your home, invite them to the temple, somehow cultivate them, that they become interested in Krishna consciousness. And finally, when they're fully interested and cultivated, then they become committed devotees. So this is the 3-step program. Vamana Dev, you remember him. So they made contacts in the neighboring village. They followed up and visited them in their homes. And then eventually they established a Namahatta there. And like this, the Sankirtan movement was spread. And Lord Nityananda, he established his headquarters for the Namahatta according to Bhaktivedanta Thakur at Surabhi Kunj in Godrum Dweep. The Navadip, 9 dweeps, 9 islands. The second island is Godrum, which is the island of Kirtan. So, like this, what was impressing to me is that this propagation of Krishna consciousness was being performed by eternal associates of Lord Krishna who came down and joined Krishna in his form as Chaitanya. Just like Krishna had his associates who were helping with the herding cows and pastimes in Vrindavan. The Lord Chaitanya, one of his pastimes is the Sankirtan movement. So they were engaging in this propagation of Krishna consciousness. So it's not anything mundane, it's a spiritual activity. It's so spiritual that you can say it's a transcendental activity. Even these eternal associates were blissfully engaged. And there's pastimes of even how Gadadhar Prabhu Radharani went to a village and how he preached, gave a class there, and the whole village surrendered to him. So we want to be your disciple, we want to follow you. And then he asked his personal servant to stay there and train everybody up. And that's another longer story. But like this, there's so many different associates were doing at different times this kind of preaching. So we're very inspired that just like Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, they had their plan how to spread Krishna consciousness, that how to then develop the congregation. That here I got in the Bhaktivedanta Manor newsletter. If you don't have your copy, don't miss it. They have here 2008 year of the congregation. So they have 8 different petals. Educate, congregate, educate, every member learning, every member teaching. Congregate, every member is brought together with others. Publish, every member is informed and supported with accessible and relevant printed and online materials. Communicate, every member is informed and connected. Care, every member is cared for and is caring for others. Preach, every member is a messenger. Volunteer, opportunities for every member to serve. Grow, we count all aspects of growth so that we value them more. And there's of course much more here written about it. So this initiative to make this the year of the congregation from the Manor, it's of course very inspiring to me as a minister of congregational development. We'd like every year to be the year of congregation. When I think in Chowpatty, it's like that. They have a very vibrant congregation and they take nice care of them. We're studying what they're doing. It's a good example for the world. This year the GBC also established a new initiative of taking care of devotees. So that's something that the GBC is very much concerned about nowadays. It's one of the, 6, 7 initiatives they have, 6 or 7. Then, of course, we go with Indradyumna Maharaj and the Polish tour. He's making so many contacts and so making it from the cultivation that they're doing of the people as they go around. Different namhatas and groups are forming all over the country, and there's a huge impact of people getting introduced to Krishna consciousness. So not everybody can do such a dynamic program and put so much energy into it. It's really wonderful. But one of the things that we're trying to do with the congregational ministry is, like, every year we have different focal points. So a couple of years ago it was groups, having small groups. I heard that now England, or rather the London area, has 21 groups. And this is really encouraging. In fact, recently, a couple of years ago, Delhi started, finally, and they did also the first year about 27 groups. But now they're up to almost 100 groups in about 3 years. And so they're exploding. And books, of course, they were number 1, I think, at least for the marathon, and maybe for the whole year they were number 1. The congregation had distributed over 200,000 Bhagavad Gitas. Of course, Chowpatty was also number 3 or 4. You're in the top 5, at least I remember something. You're number 2 marathon. So they're showing the congregation, when they get activated for the marathon, they can distribute so many books to their friends, to their work colleagues, to their relatives, to people in general. So Kripamoy Prabhu was saying that there's no reason why London couldn't have 50 groups. Prabhupada always said to double it. So the idea right now, there's basically 3 kinds of groups that are the most prominent. They're all types of namahatas. One of the group, the namahata, basically the minimum is that they do a kirtan, they have a lecture, they have question and answers, and some prasad. So that any devotee, an initiated devotee, and many even just kind of well versed in the scripture, they could do this kind of program, outreach programs, and reach out to people, go to different places, do a kirtan, give a lecture. But sometime I heard today there was a problem that in London, people have small houses, small flats, so they can't accommodate big groups. So we have also a small group program, which is called Bhakti Riksha, where you do an icebreaker, a kirtan, a discussion rather than a class. It may be like what in some places say what we'll be discussing tonight. They may want to discuss the previous Sunday feast lecture, or they may like to read a few pages from Prabhupada books and then they discuss it. They find out what were the important points, they discover the important points what the preacher Prabhupada mentioned. They try to understand what were the examples he used to illustrate those points, and then they see how to apply that knowledge in their own lives, in their realizations, how it affected them. And so by applying the knowledge, it becomes from jnana to vijnana. And then there's, they also have a session, 15-minute session of their strategic planning for the strategies for preaching. And then a little simple prasad at the end, maybe some puja. So that can be held, it's only 10 or 15 people groups, can be held in a small flat. When the groups get any bigger than 15, 20 people, they multiply into 2 groups. So then they grow. There's 2 ways. Some people just maybe some of you like to form a group somewhere in your house, invite people over, and you can just kind of start from the ground level. And then from there, when it grows, then you can multiply and have so many more groups coming. That's how now it's multiplying in Delhi. That's just the Delhi temple has, like I think it's 70, 80, 90 groups now. But I don't know if that may not include like Noida and all these other satellite temples that are around. There's about 6 temples in the Delhi area now. Not all of them are under the same, they all have their own management. And so Noida told me they had 12 groups. So that's a part. There's like more than that. They have different groups. So that was what we were doing a couple of years ago. But now, this year our focus is also that we want to recognize there's one more type of group. There's also counselor groups. This is where a very senior devotee counsels and guides the congregation, and their members, their counselees. They review their sadhana and everything. They take a much more personal interest. Some of the areas have adopted counselor group method within the Bhakti Vriksha and do both. They also, for the senior devotees, they keep track, and they were inspired by the counselor group is usually on Chowpatty and all over many places. There's about 120 that we have recorded reports of. So that's another way of taking full care of the devotees, and also if they add this preaching strategy, then kind of be pretty much like a Bhakti Vriksha. In Pune, they use, for the new students, they use Bhakti Vriksha, and for the older initiated devotees, they use more counselor groups. That's what I was told. So we have these 3 kinds of groups. And but there's another, apart from the groups, is we find that now there's a lot of Krishna conscious families where the whole family is favorable to Krishna consciousness. Maybe they're all initiated or all chanting, or maybe they're all chanting and the house is vegetarian and they have an altar. Some may be more into it than others, but basically the house is a favorable Krishna conscious house, which has takes prasadam and everything like that. So it's a central point for Krishna consciousness in that area. It's a little like a molecular unit. So Bhaktivedanta Thakur called them Shraddha Kutirs, or homes of faith. And he said that that's part of his Namhata structure and his whole overall organization. So we're trying to promote that this year. Last year in Argentina, we gave out 200 certificates to the local temple, gave out to homes that were Krishna conscious. And it was a big inspiration for them to be recognized. We have 3,000 to 5,000 such families recognized in our Mayapur Namhat Directorate. And they say many places where they don't have a Namhata, they have these families. And they work as a contact, and that could eventually turn into a Namhata. Where you get enough of such families, and then they come together, and it's a Namhata or Bhakti Viksha, some local small group. So to recognize like the building blocks are these families. Of course, some places may have all students or other, but generally speaking, it's the families that are the building blocks. So we're trying to we'll come up with some certificates and some emblems they can put on their door in their house. Like this is a Shraddha Kutir. Some people like to call them Bhakti homes. A little easier, kind of a hybrid English and Bhakti homes, Bhakti buddies. So that's one of the programs. It'd be nice if I'm sure that in London we have 60,000 people coming for the Janmashtami. So how many of them must be Krishna conscious homes, or could become, just with a little bit of cultivation? So then another program that we're trying to do is promote the Damodar month. Now, you might wonder, what does Damodar month have to do with the congregation? It comes to the temple and offers a lamp. But it mentions that, of course, you can offer a lamp in your house to Lord Damodar and Yasoda. And it mentions anyone who offers a lamp to Damodar, sings the Damodar Astika, and does some programs for Damodar. There are so many thousands of forefathers get delivered. You awaken your pure bhakti. They have on our website, namhata.org, they have some of these quotes from the different scriptures. How wonderful this Damodar is. Of course, bottom line, it's 100 times more, but it's even more than that for new people, because they weren't doing anything. So what they've started, and we've been promoting this for a few years just as a trial basis. So Kuala Lumpur has taken it up, and about 5 years ago they had 30 Namhatas, and each Namhata did a Damodar program. So they had 30. The next year they did 60. Then they decided that they're going to reach out and do many different programs, so they did about 300. And then they had a program, they did a 600. Then they had, the year before last, I came to the temple and they had a big attendance like this, and then they dimmed the lights. We were sitting and Krishna came in with some other little Krishna carrying a scroll with some other children dressed up, and they came in with the kirtan and throwing flowers and holding lamps and different. When Krishna came up and handed me the scroll. Have you ever been handed a scroll by Krishna? So I opened it up, and then it said, this is to inaugurate the preparations for the 2007 Damodar Puja. So what they do is they printed out a little suitable to put on your altar picture of Radha Damodar, not Radha Damodar, Yasoda, and Prabhupada. Jai Radha Gokulananda ki, Gaur Nitai ki, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki. And then they made that this time they're going to go out and try to visit as many homes as possible and do a 15-20 minute Damodar program where they put the Damodar picture on the altar, they offer an arati, they retell something about the glories of Damodar, they do a little kirtan, give everybody a little prasadam, some candy or some, little light prasad, little dry prasad, something in their hand, and then they go to the next. So what happens is that many families wanted the devotees to come and do this program because it's so auspicious for your family. How many of you are great hostas here? How many of you would like to have devotees come to your house in Damodar month and give you unlimited blessings and good fortune and love of Godhead and all kinds of things? We're not seeing too many hands here. So then what happens is the neighbors want to know, at least in Malaysia the neighbors want to know, what's happening? And they say, we're doing this puja and we're getting blessings for our house. So I want blessings for my house. So many people asked to have it in their house. And so like this, it went up to, they did 1,500. Then, so after that was 2007, 2006 and 2007, last year, then they became even more, they wanted again double it. So their goal was 3,000. But this time when middle-class businessmen, there was a bazaar that would come in front of Amurgan, there's the Kartikeya temple every year. So he rented a stall, put a huge picture, one of you can get these banners printed now, of Yasoda and Damodar, and then set up there, and then he had the Prabhu Vishnu Maharaj inaugurated the program. 1,500 people were there at the inaugural moment. So in the middle of a bazaar, he just set up an altar of Yasoda Damodar, and they started this program. So he had 67,000 people offer lamps to Damodar and Yasoda at his stall in 1 month of Damodar. Spent, $1,000 or something on the, I don't know how much he spent on the building the thing, but then many people gave donations, the whole thing was more or less paid for. Then all the Namahatas, like you said, invite people to your home. This is an opportunity to give everybody that chance when they come here. Who wants you to visit their homes? Like so many people I heard just for the festival that happened Monday was some kind of festival. Yesterday's Monday? Huh? Bank holiday. They said 2,000 people came here. So giving them an opportunity to invite the devotees to come to their house. So what this did, the people going to their house, doing the Damodar program, got their contacts. Many of those people became members of the congregation. Many were existing, and many became new, their neighbors, their friends. They get people to recommend, to invite, who wants to invite the devotees to come to their house. And so like this, Kolhapur, we put them as one of our worldwide coordinators for this Damodar Puja. If you have any questions, they'll send you videos and different things, so they have a multimedia presentation. Last year they did 3,870 or so house visits, apart from the 67 in that bazaar. So I don't know, next year they want to double it again. So, but it's a wonderful thing. You see, very simple things. So you come up with, we find an idea that works. This is the year of the congregation, so these are two simple things you could do. Inviting the preachers to come to your home, inviting for the Damodar Pujas. I actually did a Damodar Puja during Diwali. It's the month of Diwali, so everybody visiting people's homes in Diwali, that's what it is. You go and visit people's homes and do some programs. So in this way we can have so many new bhakti homes, Shraddha Kutirs. We can try to expand the congregation, try to cultivate the existing ones that were on the map. They cared about us, they came, they did a little Damodar Puja. Sometime we took Prabhupada in the centennial, we took a little deity of Prabhupada. So like that, we hope that you would all, I'd like to see that here in the Bhaktivedanta Manor, this should be one of the very top congregational developed area, because they have already a developed area. We don't get the reports from here so much. also from Chowpatty, we don't often get. But but I think this year Maharaj pushed them and they sent in their scores. But we have 60,000 people coming for the Janmashtami. How many temples? There's no other temple in the world that has so many people coming. Maybe in India they have these big queues of people coming, but definitely overseas this is the biggest Janmashtami. So it's a huge congregation, very popular. In fact, so we hope that we're really happy that this is the year of the congregation, and that this way we can take better care of the devotees. We can expand the number of congregations and give. Sometimes devotees don't know what service they can do. There's unlimited scope for preaching, and this is what even the eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya did. So, thank you very much. I don't know how I ended up here today. It's my Sukriti. We get the association of Radhanath Swami and Indradyumna Maharaj, and I could be at this presentation about congregational development. So I want to see that the Bhaktivedanta Manor in England should be number one in the Western world.
Jnana-samidandasya girangina shilakaya chaksunimilitam jena tasmaya Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam shtapitam jena bhutale swayam rupakadamayam dadanti shvapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram I often listen to both His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj and, of course, His Holiness Radhanath Swami. I'm one of their fans. And beg, borrow, or steal, but I get their lectures. And I listen a lot, and I learn a lot of things from them. And one of the things I've learned from Radhanath Swami is to try to be very humble. And he demonstrates his humility that whenever he gets a garland, he wears it for a moment, then he throws it off. And I'm like a little puppy dog. I'm always like waiting for the scraps of mercy. So I like to sit next to him when the garlands come off. You know, I very proudly take them and put them around my neck. Although I'm also trying these days to take the garlands off. When I get them, I'm not taking these garlands off. In fact, I'll be in that room after the program. I'm going to auction them off. To the highest bidder. And the minimum is 100 pounds, and there's no maximum. I better stop because I'm going to get in trouble. There's one left here. I'm going to steal that before somebody else gets it. No pictures, please. Pictures. So actually, I'm looking at the clock ticking away, and I feel like a thief here because as long as I speak, I'm stealing away the valuable time of His Holiness Radhanath Swami's speaking. I'm cheating you and I'm cheating myself. So I'm going to try to imbibe one shlok of Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita, wherein he says that eloquence is truth spoken concisely. I'll try to keep it as concise as possible so that we can hear from Maharaj is only here for a day and a half. But I did want to say that this is the year of the congregation, and congregation essentially means association. It was for that purpose that His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Thakur established the Namhata, which we know as congregational preaching or as Bhakti Vriksha, for the purpose of association. And when Srila Prabhupada incorporated our own society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, he stated unequivocally that he was doing so for the purpose of giving people association. One time he said that anyone who thinks that they can become Krishna conscious living outside the association of devotees is living in a hallucination. And therefore we have our society. We used to think that meant, living directly in the temple, but we can understand now, and by the practical example of Bhaktivedanta Thakur and His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj is implementing that project of Namhata in our modern era. It means extending the association beyond the temple to the towns, the villages, the cities, where we come together and we congregate and we meet. And what do? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Shmaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandham, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. And wherever we do that in a group, we have the spiritual world. That's a universal principle. Even Jesus said like that. He said, wherever there are a group of my disciples chanting my name, I am present there. And Bhaktivedanta Thakur said in his own home, his griha, because he imbibed this principle of practicing Krishna consciousness with his family in his home. He said, one day I woke up and saw my house transformed into Vaikuntha. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So wherever we congregate and we have this kirtan, and we have this Hari Katha, and we have this prasad, then the whole place becomes transformed. Through this Sangha, this Vaishnava Sangha. This is very much stressed by our previous acharyas. Rupa Goswami gives 64 items of devotional service in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And knowing the nature of people in Kali Yuga, he concludes there's 5 which are most important, which is, as you know, chanting Hare Krishna, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, worshipping the deity, living in a holy place like Bhaktivedanta Manor or Soho Street Temple, and associating with devotees. And he says any one or more of these, performed even by a neophyte devotee, one can experience deep spiritual emotion. Usually you have to wait till you're beyond anartha nivriti to really taste the real bhakti. One time Prabhupada said, devotional service begins when we're freed from sex desire. But Lord Chaitanya is so kind that we get little glimpses through the fog of our minds and our desires. We get little glimpses which keep us going. So Rupa Goswami says that even a neophyte, just sincerely practicing any one of these 5 items, can sometimes experience deep spiritual emotion, which acts as an impetus to help us achieve perfection in Krishna consciousness. And of course, Srila Rupa Goswami states that out of those 5, the most important is the Yuga Dharma. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Shangopanga Shaparshadam Yagnai Sankirtan Payar Yantihi Shumerasha. That this age of Kali is an ocean of inauspiciousness. Or that rather, Kalir Dosha Nidhe Rajan Asti Ekamahogana. Kirtanadiva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Vajat. Shukadev Goswami is instructing Maharaj Parikshit. He said that this age of Kali is an ocean of inauspiciousness, but there's one good thing left. That by Krishna Kirtan, by chanting Hare Krishna, one can achieve perfection. Nevertheless, we can understand that without that association, which we're stressing this evening, it's not even possible to perfect the chanting of Hare Krishna. That was demonstrated by Lord Chaitanya. Previously to Mahaprabhu, they were bhajananandis. Singular or small groups of devotees would retire to the forest and they would cultivate their bhakti through japa, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. But Lord Chaitanya introduced another type of chanting, where this verse comes in. Krishna varnam tvisha krishnam shangopanga shaparshadam yagnai sankirtan paya jantihi samayasa. And what is that? That we do chant individually in the morning, we have our japa, but even more stress is put on congregational chanting, where we all come together as a group of devotees when we chant. And Jiva Goswami says in his Bhakti Sandarbha that this congregational chanting is so important that, again, even an aspiring devotee can feel very deep spiritual emotion when they come together and they loudly chant, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So without the Sangha, without the association, without the congregation, this is the year of the congregation, without the congregation, we can't even perfect the Yuga Dharma. So really the two go well together. Samsara sarpadushtanam murchitanam kolo yuge ashadham bhagavan namah Srimad Vaishnava Shevanam. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, in his glorification of Lord Chaitanya, when he realized who he was sitting with in his house, he had him there for a number of days, and finally after Mahaprabhu spoke, he realized he's Bhagavan, he's Krishna, and 100 very beautiful verses came from his lotus tongue glorifying Mahaprabhu without any fault or imperfection. He said, Samsara sarpadushtanam varchitanam kolo yuge asadham bhagavan nama Srimad Vaishnava Sevanam. That those who have been bitten by the serpent of samsara, or the repetition of birth and death, in the age of Kali, they'll get relief from that miserable condition by the medicinal herb of asadham bhagavan nama, chanting the names of Krishna, and Srimad Vaishnava Sevanam, worshipping or serving the lotus feet of Vaishnavas. So the two go hand in hand. Although chanting Hare Krishna is the Yuga Dharma, really you can't perfect it unless you live in a congregation of devotees. Just like two things may be very powerful, you put them together, they're even more powerful. Like nitrogen and glycerin. I'm not a chemist, but I've been told, that nitrogen is powerful, glycerin, but you put them together, you have one bomb. We won't speak longer because maybe they'll think we're terrorists. So, you put them together. One time, two sannyasis wanted to travel together, so they came to Srila Prabhupada and asked if they could travel together. And Prabhupada said, if two sannyasis can do more together than they were doing individually, then they can surely travel together. And this is my dream. What about three? That would be nice. Oh. So similarly, chanting is very powerful, but in the association of devotees, it's most powerful. And to demonstrate this, Srila Prabhupada said that by chanting, one can get free from all sinful reactions. By chanting, one can uproot all the anarthas, the unwanted things in the heart. But one can only get prema if one receives that mantra, Hare Krishna mantra, through Guru Parampara. He was stressing the importance of the initiation. And who do we take initiation from? The devotee. So again, to perfect the chanting, we need the Sangha, we need the congregation. Our most valuable asset is each other, living in each other's association. And Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the five, Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to hear Bhagavatam from a devotee of the Lord. Sometimes, even impersonalists, Mayavadis, to attract their audience, they speak on on the Bhagavatam. I was at Kumbh Mela many, many years ago, one of the big Kumbh Melas, and I was just a little dangerous perhaps, but I was walking around looking at the different camps, and I wandered into a Mayavadi camp. And the speaker was a Mayavadi. He had the 3 lines like this across his head, and he was speaking, and he was talking all about Gopal. He was speaking so nicely about Gopal, how cute he is, and his peacock feather, and his lips red like bimba fruit, and his teeth like rows of pearls, and his soft skin, bluish black like a mon. Everyone was just melting as he was speaking. And I was thinking, oh, maybe this is a Vaishnava camp? And at the end he said, and you are that Gopal. Tattvamasmi, thou art that. I ran out of that place really fast. So if you hear the Bhagavatam from someone who's not a pure Vaishnava, the result is what? It's like drinking milk touched by the lips of a serpent. Actually, snakes don't have lips, but they have, it's poetic, they have fangs. And in India, at least in the old day, or in the villages even today, when they boil the milk, then they put it on the windowsill to cool. And sometimes the venomous serpents come, and by drinking the milk, the venom becomes more powerful. So they actually drink the milk, but they leave some drops of venom there. And then when the baby drinks, kaput, he's finished. So if we hear from non-devotees the Bhagavatam, then we're doomed. One time in the early years, I was doing universities, traveling in universities in America, like 1970. And we were very bold. We would just go into the university and go into the students' classrooms and make an announcement. We had these books. Like that, we were in Dodi. And I was very bold. One day I walked into where they're having the classrooms. I just opened the door and I walked in and I said, I'm representing His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada from the Brahma Gaudiya Madhva Vaishnava Sampradaya. And I'm selling these books on Vedic culture. And the teacher said, very nice, you can come and speak to my class. I said, what kind of class is this? He said, we're studying the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. So I was only a devotee for 6 days, so So I said, no, I'll sit. And after the class, I'll distribute the book. So I listened to him speak, and he was speaking, very quote-unquote authoritatively. But I noticed that after he spoke, the audience stood up, and the boys put their arms around the girls and gave them a little kiss, and somebody lit up a cigarette, and somebody started speaking nonsense. And I realized, because the teacher was not a Vaishnava, he wasn't practicing what he preached, he didn't have any potency when he explained this philosophy. Example is higher than precept. So even to understand Bhagavatam, we need the person Bhagavatam. So important. The deity, understanding the deity worship. What would we know about deity worship if it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada? He's an intimate associate of the Lord, so he knows in every detail what Krishna wants and what he doesn't want. This is how we learn the science of devotion. One time Prabhupada was cooking for the devotees in the early years. He cooked some samosas and offered them and then distributed them to the small group of devotees he was with in Vrindavan. Tamal Krishna Maharaj told me this story personally. And afterwards Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, Prabhupada, I have never tasted a samosa like that in my life. And I've eaten at many homes and very good cooks. Prabhupada kind of very humbly said, oh, that's because this is Mother Yashoda's recipe. So I guarantee you, if you go through the Adiraj cookbook or Mother Jamuna's cookbook, you're not going to find Mother Yashoda's recipe. So we had some glimpse into intimacy of Srila Prabhupada's life. So because he's so intimate with Krishna, he knows what Krishna wants. So through the devotee, we worship the deity. The spiritual master very kindly engages his disciples in dressing with beautiful ornaments, the deity of the Lord. So that Sangha, that Vaishnava Sangha is very important. And holy place, number 4. What is the use of going to the holy place unless one can associate with the holy people there? What can our eyes see? We have to see through the eyes of Shastra, through Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. And much of what I've learned, probably most of what I've learned about India, I've learned on the parikramas of Jayapataka Swami and Radhanath Swami. You go there and you see through their speaking, so I have first-hand experience of that. So, therefore, this association is so important. There's 64 important items, 5 are most important, but each one of those 5, success at performing those 5 items of devotional service is directly related to the devotees. They are beyond our end all of it, existence, so we should live in their loving company. We should be very careful not to offend them, not to become familiar, and to do that we follow in the footsteps of Srila Radhanath Swami, who every day would offer obeisances. He was the most advanced devotee, but every day he would offer obeisances to 10,000 Vaishnavas. He wasn't leaving anyone out. When he was doing Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavi, he was including all the Vaishnavas without discrimination, without like that. So this is the Sangha, this is the year of the congregation. And what do we do in the congregation? We do these things. We chant, we hear Bhagavatam, we worship the deity, we live in a holy place. And the catalyst that brings out the bhakti in all those activities is the association of devotees. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Radhanath Swami Maharaj ki jai, Jayapataka Maharaj ki jai, Vaishnava Sangha ki jai, Gopinath
Indradyumna Swami Maharaj ki
jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharane Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I am very grateful to be in the holy abode of Sri Radha Gokulananda, the presence of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, Indradyumna, His Holiness Indradyumna Swami Maharaj, and all of you. What could I speak after my 2 senior godbrothers? Does anyone have any idea? Everyone is silent. Jayapataka Maharaj was speaking about Bangladesh. And Indradyumna Maharaj and myself went on a pilgrimage to Bangladesh. Can I tell you one place we went? It had been our dream. His dream privately, my dream privately, for many, many years. And one day we happened to meet in Washington, D.C. We did a program together at someone's house. We were sitting on the floor taking prasad. I said, Maharaj, for years I've been dreaming of going to Bangladesh, to the place of Narottam Das Thakur, Kethari Gram. And he said, practically since I became a devotee, I've been dreaming to go to that place. So we decided to go. It's a long story. But there's one place right behind the temple where Narottam Das Thakur installed the deities, is a kund, or a pond of water. And that is where Janavadevi would collect the water for cooking, and where she would wash her utensils. The story is, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Shyamananda Prabhu, they invited all devotees from all the different places to come to Ketri Gram for the first festival of Gaur Purnima that was ever celebrated. Narottam Das Thakur was going to install several sets of deities. I was asked by Kripamaya Prabhu and Shruti Dharma Prabhu to speak on the subject of caring for devotees. How the devotees were cared for by their leaders. Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Shyamananda, very powerful acharyas, with thousands, tens and thousands, hundreds and thousands of followers. Their chief disciples were put as the personal servants of the guests that came. Of course, the guests were many of them Lord Chaitanya's personal associates. And they themselves were personally, humbly offering service to all the guests that came. And he told his cousin brother, who was the king, Santosh Dutt, to build guest house for them, to build entire storerooms for grains, for kitchens, to cook for them. And every guest had their own personal servants to make sure everything was completely comfortable and they were completely happy and totally at ease to participate in Krishna Katha and Harinam Sankirtan. Janavadevi was the senior most acharya of the whole Gaudiya Sampradaya. She's the consort of Nityananda Prabhu. She took the role of cooking for all the devotees. She was assigning people and herself bringing the water from that little pond. They were all cutting the vegetables. She was right there, just serving the Vaishnavas, preparing huge quantities of prasad. After it was offered to the deities, this is the day after Gaur Purnima, Janavadevi personally served all the devotees. And then after all the devotees ate, she had all the people serving with her sit down, and she served the servants. And after all of those people finished to their full satisfaction, she personally served the people that helped her to serve the servants of the servants. After everybody finished everything, there were thousands, then the devotees insisted that she take something. And she took a little milk and then took rest. Caring for devotees. Our greatest acharyas are teaching that there is nothing higher for us to aspire for than to be the servant of the Vaishnavas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself he and his wife would cook for devotees. He would serve the devotees, wash their clothes, carry their clothes. And Srila Prabhupada, how he cared for the devotees. Their body, minds, and their souls. Because the body is a vehicle which is meant to be a facility to serve Krishna. With our body, with our minds, we chant the holy names, we come to the classes, we hear Hari Katha, we can serve Krishna, we can serve the devotees. So the body of a devotee is something very, very sacred because it's especially utilized for the service of the Lord. If we study Prabhupada's life, it's very interesting. He traveled around the world about 12 times. We have heard from Shrutikirti Prabhu, Hari Sari Prabhu, and other devotees who were very close with Srila Prabhupada. Late at night, he would wake to translate and write purports for his books. But Srila Prabhupada told us on many occasions, I could do much better in writing my books if I could sit down in one place. And he actually wanted to do that for the purpose of his writing. But after he'd wake up, after he'd finish his translations and his chanting, what did he do all day? If you study Prabhupada's lectures, Prabhupada's conversations, we'll find that when he traveled all around the world 10 to 12 times, he had some meeting with the press. He had some meetings with important people, mayors, cardinals. He had some public programs in rented halls. But the vast, vast, vast majority of Prabhupada's life was just to encourage the devotees. All of his Srimad Bhagavatam classes, there were thousands every morning, was to personally inspire the devotees. His morning walks were to inspire devotees. So many meetings with his leaders, meetings with other devotees. And all that traveling. And I remember Prabhupada said about one place, I heard him say this, he said, I don't come here so often because everyone's doing so well. And Prabhupada would spend so much time every day writing letters because he felt the great need to give encouragement and inspiration to the devotees. He sacrificed his life to care for the Vaishnavas. And one of my godbrothers told me a story. In Prabhupada's last weeks, he was in Vrindavan. His body was emaciated. It was close to his departure. He couldn't walk. He couldn't even sit up without devotees lifting him. He was in such a condition physically. He would go to his rooftop to be in the sun. So the devotees made this like a palanquin, a chair with two poles underneath it, and they could carry Prabhupada on that. And they would have to carry him up this really thin, kind of curving staircase. And one of the devotees, young man, I think he was in his 20s, quite strong and big, he was carrying the back of the palanquin. And they were bringing Prabhupada up, and suddenly Prabhupada felt the palanquin go like this, and he heard, ah! Prabhupada stopped the palanquin. He turned to that devotee. Something wrong? He said, no, Prabhupada, no. I think it sounded like you're in pain. Is something wrong? He said, I have a boil on my leg, and the rod of the palanquin touched it. They took Prabhupada up. And Prabhupada said, let me see. Prabhupada's sitting there in such a state that devotees couldn't even look at him. He was so weak and so sick, about to die physically. And he's saying, tell me what happened. Show me. He showed him the boil. Prabhupada looked at it very carefully. He said, get a pen and paper. Devotee got a pen and paper. He said, you should take turmeric and boil it in some ghee and add some asafoetida, and then Prabhupada told him other herbs and spices to put in it. And then he said you put it on some cloth and you apply it to your boil, and it will soon go away. The devotee was crying. Prabhupada's in this state, and he's worrying about my little boil. And every day after that, Prabhupada was checking it. He'd call, is that devotee? Let me see. How was it? Does it still hurt? It's not about the boil. Prabhupada was demonstrating to us his heart. Real service, real caring is about sacrifice. It's about putting others' needs, others' feelings, others' encouragement and inspiration as a priority in our life. Now, we have heard about the unbelievable things Prabhupada's disciples had done all over the world. Jayapataka Maharaj, at one time, he was just a skinny little guy. And he went to India. And in these Mayapur, Calcutta was very difficult for a Westerner in those days. And then Mayapur, just filled with mosquitoes and cobras and just rice paddies and nothing there. And all kinds of communal groups that are attacking with guns, who hate us, who want to destroy us. Year after year after year, Jayapataka Maharaj sacrificed his life to serve the mission and the devotees there. Indradyumna Maharaj, his devotion is inexhaustible. Well, Jayapataka Maharaj was just going village to village to village in Bangladesh, and in those days riding in third-class trains and overcrowded buses, and then going to places with thousands and thousands of people in oppressive summer heat during the monsoons. He never stopped. Meanwhile, Indradyumna Maharaj was all day long in the streets of France, where so many people were threatening and hating, going against governments in Poland, because not governments necessarily, but against all kinds of opposing forces, going to nations that are having revolutions and people attacking with knives. And if you read his diary, you'll get a glimpse. Thousands of Prabhupada's disciples doing these things all over the world. Where did that inspiration, where did that courage, and where did that dedication come from? From seeing Prabhupada. Because he invested so much to care for us. It was that same heart that was taking care of that devotee's boil while he was on his deathbed. That was very much what we wanted to reciprocate with, in whatever small way we can. When Prabhupada was there in Vrindavan, is this a note or is this just to cover the water?
Time's up, not up, don't worry.
Usually I get notes like this. It's the first blank note I've had in a long time. And in a few minutes I'm sure there'll be something written. We were saying? Yes, in Vrindavan. When Prabhupada was in that condition, he was calling the leaders. What are the devotees eating? He was very careful. He wanted to know every item on the menu that the devotees were eating for their daily prasad. And there should be this also. Why is there not halava for the devotees? Why is there not? Is it being cooked properly? Is everyone satisfied? At the time, he couldn't eat anything. He could not eat a thing. But every day he was so concerned to understand what the devotees were eating, if they were satisfied, if they were happy, if their accommodations were good. Indradyumna Maharaj quoted Lord Jesus at one point during the last night before he was arrested. He went and washed everyone's feet. And his main disciple, Peter, he said, "No, you are the master. How can I let you wash my feet?" And he said, "No, you must allow." He said, "Because I want to show, if this is the way I am serving all of you, how should you serve each other? If I am your master, I am serving you like this, then how you should serve each other." Prabhupada is our master. How he cared for the devotees. Prabhupada said he shed buckets of blood for every devotee that came to this society. So our main asset is not the properties. It's not the buildings and the properties. They are invaluable assets, no doubt. Our main asset is the devotees who are living in the temples, in their homes, wherever they may be. And when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught being the servant of the servant of the servant, to serve devotees is to please devotees, to enthuse devotees, to facilitate the Krishna consciousness of the devotees. Rarely does anyone leave this movement because they find a superior philosophy. But many devotees may leave the association of devotees and even active devotional service because they don't feel cared for or loved. Because that is the fundamental, essential need of every human being, of every spirit soul, to love and feel loved. And Vaishnava culture is to take that principle of the fundamental need of every living being and put it in the context by which we can achieve the ultimate perfection. if we can be instrument of Krishna's love, of Srila Prabhupada's love for each other, our society will be the happiest society in creation. We have the philosophy. We have the prasad. We have the holy name. We have the amazing, wonderful literatures. We have such an extraordinary culture. We have holy, holy places of pilgrimage. Beautiful deities. Everything is there. But if we don't feel loved, and we don't feel the means to express our love to each other, very few people will be empowered. There's nothing that empowers a devotee more than really being grateful and happy to practice Krishna consciousness. If we're happy and grateful, we want to share it with others. We want to share it with each other and with the world. If not, we may philosophically know we should, but we may not have that inspiration. And we see throughout the history of ISKCON where devotees are cared for, loved, where they feel shelter in each other, in leadership, that project grows and grows and grows. It has to grow. Because the happiness devotees feel in bhakti is contagious. So when we speak about caring for devotees, it's not just a sentimental aspect. According to this beautiful magazine, caring for devotees is one of the 8 petals, right, of congregation development. In that context, it's a petal. But I also believe it's the root that nourishes all the other petals. When devotees are happy in association, kirtans are ecstatic. Harikatha is ecstatic. If not, something else happens to us. We can't access the mercy that's coming. His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, his main preaching toward the end of his pastimes was community building, based on caring for devotees. And even in his last weeks, when he was also emaciated and in such an immensely painful condition, what are the devotees eating? Are the devotees comfortable? Oh, my godbrother is here, and he was just so particular that the devotees were taking proper care of them and his disciples. These are the examples. Janava Devi, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada, and his loving servants. So we ask, what do you mean by caring for devotees? It's very obvious. If we really care about somebody, we'll meditate, contemplate, pray, and do any amount of research to figure out what these devotees need to be sheltered and happy, to continue the rest of their lives, to be amongst the devotees, hearing the glories of the Lord, chanting the names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
And if anyone from the outside who has some piety, or even if they're sinful, but they have some sincerity, if they see a society like this, where people really care about each other, body, mind, and soul, their hearts will open up. And when we speak to them about Krishna's all-attractive, beautiful personality, they will believe us. Thank you very much.
Hare.
On behalf of all the devotees, I would like to thank His Holiness Indradyumna Swami, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami, and His Holiness Radhanath Swami for giving us such a wonderfully enlivening presentation this evening. And may I ask if we can conclude with wonderful upraising kirtan. I think perhaps we can stand. And then Indradyumna Maharaj will be taking questions in the reception room. And he'll also be allowing you to touch the garlands but not take them away.
Good, you know.